What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Humble here checking in with you again. So today I recently looked up some stats regarding Tua Tagovailoa's rookie season, and interestingly enough, he was ranked second in deep ball attempts and I guess completions. He was what was it? He was I think it's 16 to 21 or 16 to 29, something like that. No, wait a minute. I think he was. No, he was 16 to 21. He was nearly over 50%. He was right behind Matthew Stafford. He had 2 touchdowns and he had no interceptions. He also had an accuracy rating of over 60%, which, like I said, is second best in the league amongst active quarterbacks. Um, to me, it it's kind of getting annoying to hear people continue to say he's a bust, because in order to be a bust, you must be able to not even produce um, points or anything or make your team better. Clearly, he had his struggles. Um, the Broncos game, the Patriots game, he struggled. Um, the Raiders game, he's definitely struggled in that game, and the Rams game. Now, of the teams that I just named, the Rams and the Broncos had a pretty solid defensive front, and the Raiders basically confused his offensive line to the point to where even Tua began to run out of pocket when he didn't need to, which is a common struggle with a rookie. But if you go look at his breakdown, which is Doug is Wrong did a great job on breaking down his film. The games that he actually did well in, the 200 yards, I think he had 2 or 3 games where he threw over 200 yards. He also had 2 games of over 300 yards, even though they don't really count the Bills game because he threw for 361. That was more like garbage time, but it's still yards nonetheless. He still threw for 361 in that game. He actually had a pretty good rookie season. Now, as he said himself, to his standards, it was below average. Fair enough. But in terms of what he had to deal with, no running game, a subpar offensive line, which was supposed to be led by two veterans, but instead the rookies outplayed the veterans, which is a great sign. I mean, it means that they have 3 legitimate cornerstones on the line that will be blocking for him. But at the same time, you also want your veterans to be able to hold their own. And this season, they got embarrassed, you know. But Tua himself, he showed a lot. Man, people always it always interests me when people say, "Oh, well, he didn't show me anything." Well, what game were you watching? For that matter, the games that he threw deep passes in, 9 times out of 10, they were getting dropped or overthrown. Most of the time, if the receiver had to continue to run through the route, it would have been completed, but because they, for whatever reason or another, they either slowed down on the route or they got knocked off their route, and when they did pick back up speed, he threw it to where they were supposed to be at. He doesn't throw to where you're going. He throws where you're supposed to be at within your route. So if you're not there, he's going to put the ball where you or the defender, well, neither one of you guys can get it. If the receiver or if the offensive player cannot get the ball, he's going to make sure that the defensive player doesn't. Not saying he didn't make mistakes, because throughout his campaign he had a few passes where he threw it directly to the defender. It was intercepted, which was called back by a flag or whatever. But that was merely after the whistle was blown or he knew a flag was there. He just threw it, and the defender made a play on the ball. Matter of fact, one game, I think against the Cardinals, he threw it right to the guy, and I was irritated with him about it. But nonetheless, it got called back by a penalty. So you can have an argument to say, yeah, he should have more than 5 interceptions. He should, but they're not counted. They're not jotted down as almost interceptions. They're not. They're just wiped out by penalties. So he threw, in actuality, 5 interceptions. But in terms of his productivity on the field, there's no denying how what he did was pretty good. It wasn't spectacular, nothing like that, but what he was given to work with, he did a pretty good damn job. Not to mention he had injured receivers in and out of the lineup, and from one Sunday to the next, you didn't know who was going to be cleared to play because they had nagging injuries. They had things happening to them. And his running back core was so depleted that, like I say, any given Sunday, you don't know what you had in the backfield. So he had a lot going on, which I don't understand why people listen to, the media hype, because even I fell victim at one point. I had said before when he got drafted, he's going to produce immediately, not thinking, the circumstances around him are a lot different than what they were in college. In college, he had 5 healthy receivers that he was able to maximize their potential in their games, which is that's exactly what he did. His receivers, Judy, Ruggs, Smith, Waddle. He had Calvin Ridley for a little bit as a freshman, and then, he had he had Najee Harris, he had I forgot who's Robinson, and a few other guys. He had playmakers around him. He had Leatherwood, he had a stellar offensive line. Not the best defense, but he had a pretty good solid offensive line and playmakers around him, and they helped him, look really really good. Is all the credit given to what was around him? No, because Tua has a natural talent to throw the football. People say, oh, well, he has a noodle arm and he can't do this and he can't do that. Yet, he's second in deep ball completions. His accuracy shows why. In the games that they did drop the ball, like the Chargers game where he threw literally a direct seam route down the sideline to Gronkowski, he dropped the damn pass on the first drive. That was clearly a first down. And it was for over 30 yards. But that's getting chalked up to it because, hey, you didn't put it where it's supposed to be. The ball hit Mike right in his hands. Directly in between his hands. And he still dropped it. It happens, it's football, but people got to get off this train of, Tua he didn't show me anything. He didn't prove nothing to me. And we should go with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun is a proven commodity. He had over almost 4,800 yards this season. 35 touchdowns, just 10 picks. Versus Tua's 18-14, 11 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So the experience weighs heavily on Watson's side. The only major issue the Dolphins will have is how you're going to pay him. And what would you have to give up to get him? Because you got to think you ransoming off this year and next year and probably the year after that just to get one player. And not to mention they'll probably take, like I said in my other video, X. So you give up your best corner, your next picks for the next 3 years, all to get one quarterback that you hope will be able to revitalize your offense, only to realize, oh, okay, well, he do need help just like Tua did. Because the offensive line in Miami is young. I mean, Houston line wasn't no better, but the Dolphins only have 2 veterans that started last season. The rest of them was rookies. So the second year, they're still going to be learning how to hold it down. They're not going to be fully seasoned veterans, not until their 4th or 5th year. So it is a strategical viewpoint that the Dolphins have to consider. Is it really worth getting Deshaun only to find out that, you can't afford to keep him? And then you ransom off your future because, you're trying to win now. Which with Tua, you can do the same thing because he's going through an offseason where he gets a chance to observe his mistakes and actually improve, get his strength and conditioning up and go through a full season where he's able to see exactly what the NFL is all about rather than just a small sample size of coming in after they was 3-3 and helping them win 6 games, or really 7 games. So you have a lot more tilting towards Tua's favor than Deshaun because right now he's only in the first year of his rookie contract. It's a 4-year deal. So I mean, why not see what he does next season? Which, like I said in my other video, Tua's gonna put up at least close to 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. So, I mean, if you're the Dolphins, do you really sacrifice that knowing that there's bright potential that's like right down the road as of next season versus trying to go for broke and get Deshaun, and if it don't pan out, then some people's heads are gonna get cut off behind this move. And Brian Flores doesn't seem like the type that he'll just ransom off the team's future when he can be building through the draft and free agency. He can get decent players to come, but I mean, if you ransom off for Deshaun and then you hit the salary cap where you can't buy anybody else or you cannot bring anybody else in, then what kind of move is that? Which is why when Skip Bayless suggested Jacksonville, I agreed. I mean, they have the most capital. They got the most salary cap room right now. They're over $80 million in cap space where they can actually sign Deshaun to a long-term deal, and they can eat up his contract that he had from Houston. So all that can get accomplished. But my whole message in this video is, lay off Tua. Like, he understands what his season was. He understands that, he didn't play up to his expectation, his caliber of talent, but he did do a pretty good damn job. And if he had thrown for 700 yards or whatever, then, and barely, 3-4 touchdowns in 9 games, then yeah, you got me. He's a bust. But 11 touchdowns and 5 picks is not that bad. Pretty productive for just 9 games. That means he threw almost a touchdown a game. And yeah, some of you guys may be, well, it was just a touchdown. Okay, how many times they get in the red zone, they ran the ball because it was the better play versus trying to do play action and him getting his head knocked off because the entire defense is going to lock down on him. So I'm just saying, they did what was right. They made the right play calls, and he capitalized when he had to. So understand that his rookie year is not a bust. By no means. Because if that's the case, you can say that, Jalen Hurts, who came in the second round, he wasn't that great of a quarterback. And he only put up 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. No, 6 touchdowns and 4 picks. And that was just in 3 games. But I know those 3 games they let him play, he just willy-nilly. He didn't really run plays because it was 3 games left in the season. They were just trying to fight for a playoff berth. And they figured Hurts gave him the best chance because of his legs. So, again, I mean, Tua's going to get there. Matter of fact, next season, he's due to make great things happen for the team. But if you don't want to support him, that's fine. I mean, but if you don't have a logical reason as to why he's a bust, then don't just keep saying it. Because you look like you just don't know football at all, and you don't take the time to actually watch the games. You just watch the highlights, and you judge from there according to the stat sheet, according to what it says. If it says he went, 10 to 17, well, look, he missed 7 passes. Look at this. He was barely at 50%. Well, did you not take into account of the fact that when he's throwing the ball, if they don't catch it, that does count as an incomplete, and it goes on him? But I guess that don't matter, because he got to throw the ball and catch it himself. Just telling you what I watch when I watch the games. There's a lot of these passes that he throws to the receivers and they drop them flat out. Like the Bills game, before it got out of hand, the Bills game, the second quarter, he threw a direct 30. I think it was no, it wasn't 30. It was a 15-yard en route to Preston Williams, but he threw it down the field and Preston dropped it. After he went up to catch it, he still dropped it. But that's incomplete to Tua. Nothing Tua can do about it because he put it right on the money and Preston still dropped the ball. So it's getting chalked up as an incomplete pass. But that's my whole take on the situation. Yes, I understand the situation with Deshaun. He's a veteran. But you don't bank on, what he did before because you don't know what he's going to do in Miami. He could do a lot less with what Miami had versus what Houston has right now, even though he don't want to play in Houston no more. But if you don't have the money to pay him, then you don't choke yourself to death trying to pay a high caliber quarterback like that. You let him go to somebody else, and you continue to roll from there. So if you're gonna roll with Tua, then build around him. Get your free agency, your free agency list together, and start signing some of these players that you know are interested in joining, or highly interested in doing so. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Peace.